What is going on, guys? It's Carl. We are back with another video. Newcastle Fans TV over in Japan. I am sat in my office within 28-degree heat, and whilst Lee is out in Tokyo, and I think it's around 32, something crazy like that. Lots of amazing clips from lots of different fan channels, so if you haven't seen any of those, check them out. We've got lots of our own that will be uploaded very shortly, I'm sure. Yeah, some really good footage from across the Newcastle fan base, which is fantastic. What's been going on though? Not a lot, not a lot. However, a few things to talk about. We've got an interview from Amanda Staveley talking about her exit from the club, which is interesting, and exclusive with George Caulkin at the Athletic. We also had Eddie Howe's interview yesterday, I believe, talking about the likes of Bruno Guimaraes, Malik from AC Milan, albeit not very much about that. The England job, of course. So let's dive into those. A little bit of a roundup of not too much interesting information other than the Amanda Staveley stuff. So I'm just going to take some snippets. I do have it up in the background, so I'm just going to take some snippets from that rather than going through the whole thing. But obviously the one main factor was the interesting statement that she made with regards to her exit from the club. And there were lots of rumours around Amanda Staveley's exit and why that happened. And obviously I posted a video myself, something that I took formed an educated opinion off the back of different timelines and financial literacies, that sort of thing. Lots of you give me stick, lots of you agreed with it. Fine, you know, that's exactly what we post these things for. However, a resounding bit of information for those that didn't want to hear a different opinion was, it was always the plan. It was always the plan. Amanda Staveley was coming in and was going after 3 years. Well, she has come out and said that's rubbish. That's not to say that that isn't the case, because a woman of her stature in that position, you know, she's going to say certain things. So let's dissect it a little bit. But with regards to these claims that the intention was always for her to move on after a few years, she came out and said specifically, and quote, "No, that's absolute rubbish. I am heartbroken not to be there because I love the club more than anything. The fans, the community, everything, and I would wish to be there every day, but it's also not fair. The club's management team need to have a chance to deliver their business plan. We did a great job and it's been a privilege to be part of it, but they need to be left to do their jobs too." So, one thing I will absolutely say is that her passion for Newcastle United was undeniable. Whether it would have been the same at Manchester City, Liverpool, Tottenham, potentially, because she comes across as that type of person. But we were lucky that she was able to push the takeover through with our beloved club in Newcastle United, and we experienced a mass amount of passion from her and Mehrdad. I will never take that away from her. My little gripes came from seeing her around the club from some of the documentary and some of the things that were coming out in the media, and I felt back then, and I've said this, that was she starting to get in the way a little bit. Now, from her own comments, it seems that could be the case. However, those of you that believe that she was just here to make a quick profit and get out, albeit with some passion along the way, won't be surprised by these comments, because these are the things you expect somebody to say who was in a position to go out and buy a stake in another club, which is a potential opportunity that has arisen for them in Tottenham Hotspur. We don't know the full validity of that, but it does, and it has been doing the rounds quite extensively, and there are talks that Amanda and Mehrdad are potentially interested in the project at Tottenham. If that happens, it happens. I can only be thankful for what she did here for us.
Guys, yeah, all done. All done. Thank you. Thank you very much. Good afternoon, guys. Afternoon.
It's done.
I suppose you probably feel like you know it very well after the last 4 years. If you can you try and sum up the last 4 years and then the last 48 hours?
Interestingly, she claims that she was offered a full-time executive role by Yasser Al-Rumayyan, which she turned around and said perhaps the ending might have been different if we had not been so hands-on initially. Staveley says if they'd have taken up an offer from Yasser Al-Rumayyan, the governor of Saudi Arabia's Public Investment Fund, PIF, and Newcastle United's chairman, to take on a full-time executive role, but Staveley felt that the right thing for Newcastle was to bring in someone with the right experience. So that being Darren Eales, of course, who joined us from Atlanta. So she felt that she didn't want an executive role. She could have sat on the board and taken a step back and relaxed and taken a salary and, you know, allowed herself to focus on her own health. But she goes on to talk about the fact that that's just not the way that she is. She's not inclined in that way. She's not built that way. She wants to be working on a day-to-day basis. And she feels that her role had come to an end. What I take issue with is I appreciate what she's saying here, but it almost sounds contradictory in that you're saying that you were pushed, however, you felt that your role was done. So I don't really understand which one it was. It could be both, I guess. It could be both. The realisation that it had come to an end, but she didn't really want to leave, so she waited till she was pushed per se, or she just said that she wasn't going to take an executive role, and PIF would turn around and said, okay, well, we also feel that your role is now redundant and we can't see you as the CEO or the chief operating officer or whatever that might be, a director of football. We don't see that role for you and you being the protagonist for that. So the only other option is that we buy you out and you move on. And people will take the stance of, well, she may well have had that thought process from the very beginning, and she might. We'll never know, will we? All I can say is that she's been a fantastic presence for the club 90% of the time. Like I said, I had my gripes, and I had my gripes with the financial problems that she had ongoing in the background. It might have been fueled by bankruptcy. We don't know. I absolutely appreciate people's opinions on my take on that. Yes, it is speculative. But at least she's coming out and quashing some of the rumours per se. She does go on to talk about her health with regards to Huntington's disease. She's quite candid about that. She was asked, why not sit on the investment and just enjoy the ride from the director's box? And it's exactly what I've kind of quoted there is, I'll be honest, I have a degenerative disease in Huntington's and I need to work. There's actually some wonderful things that have come out about Huntington's and the potential cure, or at least the slowing down of the disease and its symptoms, but every day is precious and I don't want to waste time in case I don't have a huge amount of time. I need to keep my brain active. Completely appreciate that. I had family members that succumbed to Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's, unfortunately, my dad's parents, and if you knew that was coming, and obviously, and you very much don't with those two diseases, but with Huntington's disease, the potential in loss of cognitive behaviour, of course, you want to keep your brain active as much as possible. So I completely understand her viewpoint there. It is a painful goodbye, I guess, and as I said, she quashed the theory that it was always going to be a semi-temporary relationship and that she'd secure the financing to buy out Mike Ashley and stabilise Newcastle, that she would then look to cash in for something else. Absolute rubbish, heartbroken not to be there because I love the club more than anything, the fans, the community, everything, and I wish to be there every day, but it's just not fair, etc. I know we've gone into that at the start of the video. But this is the confusing bit, I guess, is that she knew that it was coming in terms of me leaving, but the fans and PIF deserved every focus of mine. So had I have left before the PSR deadline that we had breached, then that would have been bad. It was very, very difficult, but I was determined to make sure that Darren had a clear runway. My preference would have been to stay with Newcastle, but life doesn't always work out exactly how you want it to. So from those snippets, I take that Newcastle were in an extremely bad financial position. PSR nearly was an issue. Well, it was an issue, but it nearly come to fruition with regards to a points deduction. Was there potential blame at their feet for that, and they wanted to sort things out before they left? She knew that her role had come to an end. Newcastle offer her an executive role. She thinks that, or she feels that she needs to continue working and keeping her brain active because of her Huntington's disease. Newcastle United can't offer her that, so the best way out is that we part ways amicably, very much amicably, purchase her shares. That helps her financially in the background with the stuff that she's got ongoing in the background, and should see her with the potential to buy into another footballing project, is what I take from it after all of that. What do you guys think? Do you want to be sinister and think that she always had an eye in terms of just making profit and cashing in and cashing out? I don't know. I'm just giving you my opinion off the back of that. But that was an interesting take from Amanda Staveley with regards to what happened. And she goes on to say, Mehrdad and I are keen to be hands-on. We're hard-working people, and I love to be very busy and to engage, and I love football. I think we can see that. I think we've all seen that. Yeah, so good luck to Amanda Staveley and Mehrdad. It is a bittersweet ending to that relationship, of course. My only fear is that the veil between Eddie Howe and Yasser Al-Rumayyan and PIF can become quite fractured from here on out. That's my only concern, but I hope that the likes of Darren Eales and Paul Smith and Eddie Howe obviously form a great bond, and we can push on as a club and turn us into this financial powerhouse that we want. Off the back of that, Newcastle's valuation being touted at around £1 billion, I am uncomfortable that that's out in the media. Just saying. We know that we're part of the 2030 plan to increase the valuation of the club, and they were talking around £3-4 billion. So the fact that we're worth £1 billion just after 3 years, but like I said, the fact that's been touted around concerns me. I've always said that PIF will not be here long term. My original view was 15 years, which of course is a long time. And I genuinely don't see them being here any longer than that. And if you look at the timeline and the amount that we've been able to increase in revenue over that short period of time, their target is more than achievable within the next 10-15 years. So yeah, I hope they're not touting for a buyer already. I'm sure they're not. But let's move on to Eddie Howe and Newcastle United over in Tokyo. The first bit I wanted to touch upon was Bruno Guimaraes. He joins Newcastle out in Tokyo after posting a 26-hour flight with his head in hands, of course. A very, very long flight. Wouldn't fancy that at all, but it was great to see the content of him reuniting with the likes of Jacob Murphy, Joe Linton, etc. All smiles, all banter, and it looks like that team chemistry is raring to go. Eddie turned around and said, "We're delighted to have him back. It always gives us a boost, and suddenly we have more numbers in training. Today was the first day we have seen the group at its strongest this summer. We have quality returning with Anthony Gordon and Kieran Trippier." Also, Kieran Trippier posted his Instagram post out in Nubo in Dubai with the chief of scout of Al Ittihad. I believe that was it, or is it Etifak? I can't remember which club. Either way, quite cryptic after saying that it was a good meeting, so we don't really know what's going on there. What we do know, and we do know this, is that Kieran Trippier's house is up for sale in Tramwell Woods. Is he downsizing? What's going on in his personal life? We don't know. I'm not going to speculate about any of that stuff, to be honest, but I do know that his house is up for sale, but it doesn't necessarily mean anything, does it? He could just be moving property. What else? He also goes on to talk about Bruno Guimaraes' release clause. It was never something that was on my mind. I don't think it was on his mind either, to be honest, but of course it was there, and I'm really delighted that it's passed with nothing happening. Now we can focus on him being at Newcastle United and having a season just as good as he did last season. And boy, did he have a good season last season. I'm just gutted, of course, that we didn't finish where we were projected to, and that we were obviously pipped to European football by Manchester United beating an unbelievably good Manchester City within every game prior to that game. So yes, gutting of course that we don't have European football this year, but we do have the Premier League to focus on. And I made a crazy prediction. I'm saying that Newcastle United are making a title challenge this season. If there's no injury crisis and we don't have any other distractions, Newcastle United are making a push for the title this season. Yes, I am saying that after complaining about the fact that we've made no signings yet. And on that note, Eddie Howe and Malik Thor at AC Milan. There are no updates on that. I'm always reluctant to comment on these things, but he is a player I know about. Of course I do. From our games in the Champions League against Milan. He's a very good player, but other than that, that is it. And that is backed up by a lot of local media in the sense that now it's been spoken about that Newcastle United haven't barely made any contact with regards to any players, and that there are no substantial moves on the horizon. That concerns me with 3 weeks to go until Southampton. It does. I don't know about you. And the final point from Eddie Howe was on the England job. I've had no contact whatsoever from anybody. I am fully committed to Newcastle. There is nothing to talk about. I do not need to address the players. They know how I act, and I hope they can see how I am on a daily basis to see how committed I am to the club. So Eddie quashing the England rumours there. Finally, a bit of conviction from him in terms of putting a closure on that, I think. Also with regards to the Bruno deal, I think we can expect to see him here. There wasn't much talk about Anthony Gordon. I'm still concerned about that one with the Liverpool Echo coming out and saying that Liverpool are ready in another bid with players. Yeah, but we don't know. And that's really it. Other than Newcastle United taking on Urawa Reds at 11:30 tomorrow, which will be, I think, roughly around 6 o'clock Tokyo time. Correct me if I'm wrong. That's it. Not much has really happened. So yeah, like, share, subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one.